Hi guys, Mr. Hill here with your second maths lesson for this week. Today we're going to be looking at multiplying a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. Before we get started with that, I've got some questions for you to have a go at. Shouldn't take you too long, just to get the old brain working again and get us going, ready to start the lesson. Pause the video here, complete the calculations, press play when you're ready to carry on. Okay, are you ready for the answers? Here they come. There we go. You should have found the first two quite easy to do, either using the methods that we were learning about yesterday, or maybe you found another way of doing them. I'm wondering how easy you found the second two questions. If you struggled a little bit, that's no problem, because we're going to be looking at these today. So, what could the calculation that we're trying to work out here be? Have a think, see if you can work it out. Look at the hundreds, tens and ones in each row and each column and see if you can work it out. That's right. We're looking at 243 times 4. We've got 4 rows here, and each row has got 2 hundreds, 4 tens, and 3 ones to make 243. So we have got 243 drawn out using our place value counters in our place value grid 4 times. Now, we need to solve the answer to this. So can you remember what we did yesterday? That's right, we looked for groups of 10 and we looked to exchange them up to the next place value. So I've got my group of 10 here. In my ones, I'm going to exchange that up. That's going to become a 10. Here we go. And I'm left with 2 ones here. Now I need to do the same again. So I'm going to count up the number of 10s I've got. There we go. I've got 10 there. That's a group of 10. And the 10s are going to exchange up to the, yes, that's it, up to the hundreds. So off this one goes. There we go. 10 tens made into 100. I've got left in the tens column now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got less than 10 in there, so I don't need to do any more exchanges there. I can now move over to my hundreds and count up how many I've got there. So we've got 2 ones, we've got 7 tens, and we've got 9 hundreds, which gives me the answer of 972. So for multiplying with 3-digit numbers, we're just adding an extra column onto our grid and having to do maybe one extra exchange on the way up. So it's not much more difficult, it's just an extra digit that we have to work with. So we've got 3 times 150. Have a go. Can you draw me out the place value grid that should be for this question? Pause the video here and have a go. Okay, here's how I've done it. I drew my grid out. I've got hundreds, tens, and ones. So I know I need 3 columns because I've got 3 digits in my big number. I also know I'm multiplying by 3, so I'm going to need 3 rows, which is what I've drawn out. Each row is going to need 150 in there. So I will need to put 100 counter in each end of the hundreds column and 5 tens in the tens column. I don't need to put anything in the ones column because I don't have any ones. When we write the number down, if there's no ones or there's no tens, for example, we put a 0 in there to show that there is nothing in that place value. Well, this is 1 times 150, so I need to fill in my other 2 rows. Another 150 and another 150. Okay, can you work out how to solve this one? Pause the video here, and when you're ready, press play to carry on. Okay, I'm sure you've all got the answer. I'm going to go through it anyway, just in case you've made a mistake somewhere or you've not managed to quite get it right. So I'm going to look at my ones column. Well, there's nothing in there at all, so there's nothing I need to check to make sure I've only got 9 or less in there. Now my tens column I do need to look at because I've got a lot of tens now. I've got 15 tens in there at the moment, and I can't have that. I have to have less than 10. So I'm going to take 10 of my place value counters, 10 of my tens, and I'm going to exchange them across, and they're going to go into my hundreds because I know that 10 tens makes 100. There we go, get those exchanged and out of the way. So they're now into my hundreds column. So I'm going to look back at my tens. I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counters left in there. So that's all good. I have got less than 10 in there, and I can look at my hundreds, and I've got 4 in there. So it gives me my answer of 450. Have a go at these questions. So you need to pause the video, have a go. I'll come back in a minute and I'll go through the answers with you. Okay, how did you get on? Well, let's have a look at the answers. Give yourself a tick if you've got it right. If not, have a look at the calculation, see if you can work out where you've gone wrong. So our first question, Philip uses a place value chart to help him multiply a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. So the first part of our question is asking us, what is the multiplication that Philip is working out? So we need to look at one of the rows. So there's 100, 2 10s and 4 1s. So it's 124. We've got 3 rows that we're using there. So we're going to check that. That's going to be 3. So it's 124 times 3. What's the answer to the calculation? So we can do this in one of 2 ways. We can count up all the counters, or we can solve the multiplication. We've been practicing using the counters, so I'm going to go through and do it that way. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's too many. I need to exchange 10 out. So I'm going to do that. That will leave me with 2 1s and an extra 10 that I need to exchange up into my tens column. That'll leave me with 7 counters in the tens column. I don't need to exchange that, and I've got 3 hundreds in my hundreds column. So my answer is going to be 372. You should have used place value counters to complete these multiplications, whether you've drawn them out or whether you've got some coins, whichever was working for you. How did you get on? Give yourselves a mark out of 6 for this one. Okay, moving on. We've got another calculation here. 103 times 4. So we could carry on using the place value grid and the counters, or we could use the formal method that we used yesterday for doing with 2-digit numbers multiplied by a 1-digit number to find our product. This is how we would lay it out. So it will look very similar to what we did yesterday, where we had our 10s and our 1s, and we were multiplying by a 1-digit number. All we're doing is we're adding 1 extra column for our hundreds. The process is very similar. So here we go. I'll use it with the array next to it just to help us out. So you can see in each row, I've got 100, I've got no 10s, and I've got 3 1s. My first calculation, can you remember which way we start? That's right. I'm going to start with my 1. So I'm going to do 3 times 4 to begin with. That will give me 12. So when I write this down, oh, hang on, we need to remember that I need to do, if I'm using my grid as well, I'm going to move by 10 counters along. So it's going to exchange up, it's going to give me 1 10 in my tens column. So we know 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to put my 2 from my 1s in my 1s column. I'm going to exchange the 10 up into the tens column. Now, my next calculation is going to be, that's right, 0 multiplied by 4. And we know the product of anything multiplied by 0 is 0. And I know that I've only got 1 10 in my grid, so I'm going to have 1 10 in my answer. So that's the one that I exchanged from my first calculation into my second column. Now the final step in this solving this, I've got to do, that's right, 100 times 4. That will leave me with how many? That's it, that's right, 400. That's going to go in here. So my total answer is, for my product of my multiplication, is 412. There we go. Okay, your turn. Have a go. Lay this one out using the column method, or the formal method that we've been looking at, the written method rather. See if you can get the answer. I'll be back in a second and we'll go through it. Pause the video here. Okay, how did we get on? Right, let's have a look. Let's see how close you've got to my answer. So this is how I'm going to lay it out. I'm going to have a column for my hundreds, a column for my tens, and a column for my ones. So I've got 2 hundreds, 4 tens, and 6 ones. And I'm multiplying all of that by 4. So my first step, I'm going to multiply 6 by 4, which gives me 24. I'm going to write the 4 for my ones in my ones column, and I'm going to exchange the 2, so the 20, across into my tens. My next calculation is going to be 4 times 4, which will give me 16. What I need to remember to do is add the 2 I've exchanged previously and make that up to 18. I'm going to exchange the 10 out of that number. So I've now got 8 left in the tens column, and I've got 1 exchanged up to my hundreds column. My next calculation is 2 times 4, which will give me 8. And I must remember to add on the 1 that I've exchanged across to give me 9. So my answer here is 984. The other thing to be really, really careful of here is that I put my exchanges underneath the column that they're exchanging into, not putting them halfway between two, because it might be really easy to get confused and I'll end up getting my answer wrong. So there we go, 984. Have another go at this one. How are we going to lay this out? Pause the video here, have a go. I'll be back in a minute to take you through it. Okay, how did we get on? Bit easier this time, I hope. So we should all have it laid out the right way round. So I've got my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. So in my hundreds column, I've got 1 because I've got 100. In my tens column, I've got 5 because I've got 5 tens, which makes 50. And in my ones column, I've got 3, which makes 3. So we've got 3 ones. And we're multiplying it by 7. So we've laid it out, we're ready to go. My first calculation, so starting from the right and working to the left, is going to be 3 times 7, which gives me 21. So again, the 1 goes into my ones column. I exchange the 2 tens into my tens column. My next calculation now is going to be 50 times 7, which gives me 350. I've got the 2 tens that I exchanged across from my first calculation, so I need to take those into account as well. So I've got 5 tens times 7 gives me 35 tens. And then I need to add the extra 2 tens on, so it gives me 37 tens in total. So there we go. There's the 7, and then I need to exchange the other 30 across. Now, my last calculation I need to complete is 100 times 7, which gives me 700. But I've exchanged across again, so I need to make sure I add that in. This is where it becomes really important that we make sure we write our numbers underneath the correct place value column, so we don't end up adding the wrong numbers onto the wrong products. So 100 times 7 gives me 700s. 700s plus 300s gives me 1000s. So I need an extra column on my calculation for my thousands. That gives me an answer of 1071. There we go, 1071. How did you get on? Right, over to you this time. Here are some calculations for you to work out. Pause the video, complete your work, and when you're ready for your answers, press play to carry on. Okay, here we go. Right, so for question 3, here are your answers. You might want to pause the video here and go through. What I've done, I've actually written on where I've exchanged as well. And what you'll see is I've made sure I've written on where the exchanges are and which place value column they need to be in, so I don't get myself confused. So what I would say is give yourselves a mark if you've got the question right. Give yourself an extra mark if you've managed to get the layout correct as well, because that's really important, especially as we're going to be moving on this week and the numbers are getting bigger and the questions are going to get more complicated. Okay, moving on to question 4. 7-year groups in a school, there are 112 children in each year group. How many children are there in the whole school? What we need to do here, the calculation we need to work out is 112 times 7. Once we've worked that out, the answer is going to be 784. For question 5, this requires a little bit more working out, a little bit more thought to it. So we've got a banana that weighs 140 kilograms and a pineapple that weighs 345 grams, even not kilograms, grams. Bag A contains 8 bananas and bag B contains 3 pineapples. Which bag weighs more and by how much? So to work this out, we've got to do 3 different calculations. So the first calculation I need to do is 8 times 140 to work out how heavy bag A is, because that's full of bananas. Bag B has got 3 pineapples, so that'll be 3 times 345. I then need to find the difference between my 2 answers. So I've got that here. Bag A, which has got the 8 bananas in, weighs 85 grams more than bag B, which has got the 3 pineapples in. Okay, well done today, guys. You've worked really well through this. I look forward to seeing your work later on. And I will be back tomorrow with another maths lesson where we'll be looking at 4-digit numbers multiplied by 1-digit numbers.